Everybody knows we've got City Recorder Randy Sanders, Council folks David Thomas, Pam Bucklew, and Jack Rigger, Information Coordinator Callie Cronin-Sams, and City Attorney Tom O'Neill. And then, of course, in council chambers, for those of you on the phone, we've got CJ Rylands and Mary Allball, myself, and then we've got Police Chief Matt Gregory, and we've got Amby Jenkins. And then we've got the Record Delta, my Buckhannon, and the Intermountain as well. Okay, let's go ahead and start our evening with our moment of silence, and then we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Mr. Fisher, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I shouldn't have had you guys sit down. You're up next. Ladies and gentlemen of council, as you'll recall, we held interviews for a new city police officer a few weeks back. We're pleased to offer employment to James Adam Fisher of the county next door, Barber County, who's going to be coming over here to the land of the royal blue to serve our community, and we're thrilled that he's going to be a part of Buckhannon and Upshur County. So if you want to come forward, Matt, if you want to, I don't know if you want to come forward as well.
Picture taken.
Okay. We've got the official oath of office to. I'll try to make this easy because when I did this, that too many words at once you forget. Yeah. So glad you're here. Thanks for accepting, and we hope you have a great career with us. Would you please raise your right hand? I, James Adam Fisher.
I, James Adam Fisher.
Do solemnly affirm.
Do solemnly affirm.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the State of West Virginia.
The Constitution of the State of West Virginia.
The Charter and ordinances of the City of Buckhannon, West Virginia.
The Charter and ordinance of the City of Buckhannon, West Virginia.
And faithfully discharge my duties.
And faithfully discharge my duties.
As a police officer of said city.
Of a police officer of said city.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you very much. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You would please sign here, and then I will sign under you. All right. Thank you very much. The floor is yours if you'd like to say anything to the community in which you're about to serve.
Well, I hope to fulfill my oath. I'll do, everything that I'm supposed to do. Man, it caught me off guard, got me kind of nervous, but it's okay, it's okay.
Probably didn't have to say anything.
Yeah, he told me I didn't have to say nothing, but it's okay, it's okay.
We'll blame Matt.
He'll blame Matt. But long story short, I'll always make sure to fall back on my oath. I'll always fulfill my oath and my duties as a power granted to me as a police officer. And that's pretty much it. I didn't really think of anything else to say, but I think it sounds pretty good to me.
That is correct.
Well, thank you.
You gotta get a photo off.
You want Matt?
With you or just Matt and
Let's do Matt and he.
okay.
I'll step out of the way.
Don't have to smile.
Yeah.
You thought that.
You can see it through the mask.
Yeah. Smile with your eyes.
His hair's gonna fall off.
All right, that's it.
Thank you, congratulations.
It's no problem.
Yes, sure, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Matt, do you have anything you want to say, or you want to defer to your report?
I'll defer more.
Okay, awesome, thank you. All right. Up next, we've got Dennis with a report from the Upshur County Parks and Recreations Board. And for those of us in council chambers, Dennis has laid a few things on our desk, but do believe that he has a report that's in our packet for those who are on the phone.
Thank you,
Dennis?
Mayor. The report that's in your packet has black and white pictures. The one I handed out to most of you tonight has color pictures. So anyway, here's the report. There was no meeting in October, which would have been last Monday. But I can give a better update on two current projects that we are working on. Number one, Rachel Weber is the liaison between a committee working on the bike trails, and below you'll see 4 pictures of the start of the bike trail. That committee is now working under the Parks and Recs Committee. We'll skip over to number 2 on page 3, and we are also working to bring disc golf to the recreation park. As you can see on the flyers, and I'll hold one up here, this is still more work for the committee, but a small part of the proposed course is on property belonging to the Board of Education. So we can't say anything official about that tonight. The next step will be to visit the Board of Ed, possibly at one of their meetings, and so the flyers I separated out from the packet because they're preliminary yet. They're just not quite ready for public use yet. But they will be pretty soon as we go to the County Board of Education with this plan. And that, Mr. Mayor, folks, it's the end of my report.
Thank you, Dennis. Does anybody have any questions?
We talked about the disc golf for years and years, so I'm glad you and others have taken the initiative and looking to make it happen.
Josh Hitz was the chairman of the committee.
Well, good.
Yeah, and he's pushing it, and we're working with him.
Appreciate your efforts.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We start our department reports. First up is Information Coordinator and Grant Researcher Callie Cronin-Sams, who joins us on the phone. Hello, Callie.
Good evening, thank you. To start out with some of the news, we continue to have COVID-19 for public COVID-19 testing offered again tomorrow at the high school, noon to 4 through the parking lot. Also wanted to remind folks that there is an open position right now in the Streets and Parks Department, and that is accepting applications for full-time labor through October 30th. Today is the final day to complete the U.S. Census, so if you have not done that yet, you still have a few more hours to get that done. So we certainly hope that everyone has gone ahead and completed their census form. That can be done at their phone or online.
Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. 2020census.gov. And there's also a 800 number, 844-330-2020. So very easy and definitely a good thing to do. Really helps our community if everyone gets counted.
I think West Virginia's done pretty well with it this go around.
Yes, I've seen that as well, so that's great. Great news. The Mccann Volunteer Center's Wi-Fi hotspots are up and running at Stalker Youth and Community Center, Gibson Library, and Jawbone Park. I've noticed, I think it's also not only been a benefit for students and the public that have been able to use that, but I've noticed that our Buckhannon Volunteer Center webpage and Facebook page have been getting more views since those hubs went up. So when people use that Wi-Fi, they're getting a little, advertisement saying thank you to the Buckhannon Volunteer Center, and so that is getting the Volunteer Center some more views, and of course, the Volunteer Center being a hub for service organizations here throughout the community. So hopefully that means that all of those agencies, we have over 20 that have posted their needs, they're getting some more views too, I hope. Working with Jeff Walmsley in the Waste Department on a PR and educational piece on the bulky goods collection. Kind of as a follow-up, we have our recycling flyer and recycling guide is up on the website now, so we'll be adding something on bulky goods soon. I attended the committee COVID-19 task force meeting and reported on our status. I've attended the Upshur County Tobacco Prevention Coalition meetings, and most recently attended the West Virginia Hub's Leading Impactful Conversations webinar that kind of focused on Zoom especially, but how to conduct business well online. And of course, I continue to update the city's website, social media, and running our go-to meetings for council, board, and committee meetings. I'll be working on our CARES Act application for September, getting that turned in next week, and continue to work with Jerry and Brad and the sign guy on our pass signs and 5K routes. We have on the LED sign recognition of Aaron Anderson, a West Virginia Teacher of the Year, so that's still up and running on our LED sign. And you can see the final version of our recycling flyers in your packet. Of course, that's probably in your packet in black and white, but I encourage you to check it out on the website in color. It looks really nice.
It really does.
And that's what I have, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Callie on her report?
Thank you.
Thanks, Callie, very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Kelly.
Sure thing.
Have a great evening and a great weekend. Okay.
Sounds good.
Jerry Arnold could not be here this evening. He did submit his report. Just a couple highlights in here. The cement mixer vendor will be here in the next week, a week after, to conduct some training on the mixer and silo. Under street crews have been working to install the historic street signs, as well as the doors at the Stockard Youth Center and Fire Department. Then the street department is also accepting applications for a full-time position until Friday, October 30th, as Callie just alluded to. The sewer department is continuing to work on 33 West Extension North. The road bore is completed. Crew 2 has completed the following: EMS sewer line repair, Pine Street sewer tap, Franklin Street tap, community care tap. They've been busy working and setting up taps for folks. Maintenance crew has installed new UV unit and had the start up last Friday. Underwater, they finished the hydrant flushing and have been installing services on Brushy Fork. Waste is nothing new to report, and there are a few items under the engineering report from Jay. Tennerton Booster Station, continuing to work on the proposed station building layout and the amount of additional acreage that would be required for the construction and upgrades of the new booster station. And then also North Spring Street utilities and street improvement project, continue work on existing underground utilities and base map. You can see the full report in your packet. I encourage council, if you have any questions, to contact Jerry. He could not be here tonight, but that's just a few of the highlights from his report. Moving down the line to the financial director, we have Amby here in the room with us to give us the news on how much money we've got.
Well, I'm going to tell you how much money you have in your enterprise funds this round.
I thought you were going to say how much money we don't have.
We're a lucky city, you know. So in your sanitary board, the balances for September 30th, money market and checking $485,917, and their CDs and savings remain at $253,190. Water board money market and checking $169,434. Their CDs are at $965,476, and then waste collection board money market and checking is $694,033, and the savings they have is $58,033. Pretty short report. I want to remind everyone that we're still waiting on the truck. They're still wrapping up some items with it, and there'll be a small change order come in that council will have to approve. So I want to report that because I cannot finish the financing on that until the truck arrives, and we're at least 6 months to a year out on that. Bryson Van Osteren helped us submit the documents needed for the theater grant. As you might recall, we extended that grant till the September 30th. That was submitted in for the $67,000, and almost immediately they put those funds into our account, so we've got that back for the theater grant. And then we continue to work on the financial statements with Richard Trent for the enterprise funds and for the Public Service Commission reports for the water and the sewer departments. And in your bills to be approved, ones I want to point out to you to note, we had to expense $5,500 to Kalia. That's for the on-site assessment. I'm sure Matt will catch up on that. He's done a really good job, and we're so close to this. I mean, by this time next year we'll be certified. $1,277 to United Rotary for gutter brooms for the street sweeper. We expensed $2,800 to Ascent Consulting for the concrete testing and construction inspection for the Gateway West concrete sidewalks and project. We expensed $1,272 to Appalachia Roofing, and that was for repairs on, wasn't repairs, it was for added a feature on the roof of the theater for pipe boot flashing. They had to do that because I think of the HVAC install. And then the only thing I'll have later in the agenda is a couple items, the stormwater project, stormwater fund.
Let's go ahead and talk about some of these things right now, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Specific to F1 and F2.
Okay. So F1 and F2 is two separate matters about the same thing. First of all, council might recall when we first began talking about sales tax, one of the things that would be funded would be the stormwater projects. And when we did our budgets back in March, council approved $150,000 to be expensed to stormwater projects in this fiscal year. So we need to keep those funds separate. Council a few years ago also adopted an ordinance to put the sanitary board in charge of the stormwater projects. And in order for them to pay for some of these items, I need to set up a separate fund because I have to keep that money separate from the sewer department. And the fund actual number is 426. Council has to approve me, allowing me to open up a fund. And open up a fund in our general ledger will allow me to open up a bank account for them. And it'll be another fund just like the sanitary board, the water board. It'll be another fund that will operate, and I'll report to you on the balances. With that, to open that fund, because they're doing a little bit of work and I need to, we'll need to expense some funds for invoices. We're asking in the second part of that approval, I'll need the fund approved first, and then the second part of that approval, I'll need you to authorize me, as per your budget, to draw $75,000 out and put into general fund to put into this account. Now, keep in mind, you budget $150,000, but we don't want to take that all out at once. We just need half of it right now, and then we'll set the fund up and start paying bills. And at some point, I'll come back and ask you for approval each time that I have to take funds out of the
Additional funds after that.
you've budgeted $150,000,
Right.
but we just won't pull it all out. But
Right, I got
yeah.
you.
Actually, just as a layer to that, when you did the budgets, about $950,000 has been committed of sales tax money to go towards infrastructure projects.
Right.
And periodically, I'll come back to you and ask you to allow me to pull funds from that because it's going to filter through general fund into these projects.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Good.
So I need those two things.
So I would entertain a motion that we approve the establishment of a stormwater fund to follow Amby's recommendation, because we do need to keep that separate.
Yes, so moved.
We have a motion by Mrs. Aldwall. We have a second by who?
Thomas.
I think it was Dave Thomas.
We'll go with Dave Thomas. Okay.
I didn't say anything.
Oh,
Oh.
was that?
I do, I second.
Randy, is that you?
Mary,
I love the phone.
Aye. Yeah, seconded.
Okay, okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, like sign, opposed. Motion carries. F2, following this, the approval of transferring $75,000 of sales tax revenue to the stormwater fund that we just created. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by Rylands, second by Allball.
I think Thomas did it first.
Well, you got out, Rylands was very boisterous in his voice. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Those like sign opposed.
Abby,
Yes, Dave.
I have one question for Abby. I guess it's a perfect time to ask it now, that we're taking the sales tax place to help this. Abby, have you gotten the results yet for the third quarter?
No, actually, the taxes are due today for sales tax. So those businesses reporting, this is their last day to report.
Okay, so you'll have that number at the first meeting in November?
I expect so. They've been pretty quick to let me know what those will be, yes.
Okay, and you don't think it's probably going to be about the same every quarter, I would imagine?
I would imagine you'll probably see fluctuations according to holidays and seasons.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so both F1 and F2 motions have passed unanimously, so we will defer to you to get those set up. Okay, thank you for your report. All right, City Attorney Tom O'Neill, do you want to defer to strategic issues, or do you have a report for now?
No, I'll if I can just wait until my items under strategic, I think that'd be easier to handle.
Okay, sounds good. We'll be with you in just a second. Oh, well, I did skip Matt. Matt Gregory, police chief. Sorry, Matt.
No problem. I just have a few things. Just welcome Mr. Fisher on board with the police department. He begins his employment this coming Monday, the 19th. He will be going through the onboarding process, which will consist of his initial trainings and policies and procedures. We'll also prepare him to attend the academy. I do have his academy paperwork application already submitted. My understanding is the next available academy is in January. From what I'm told, as of late September, there were already 60 officers in line to be trained. As I've reported at other meetings over the past few months, there has been a backlog because of COVID, where the academy shut down in the spring. They did open back up in September and are currently running a class now, but they're still quite backlogged, thus the numbers already waiting to be trained in January. So our hope is, with application being received in October, we're somewhere in that mix to hopefully get him trained in January. The next available class after January is March. So again, our fingers are crossed, hoping we get him to begin training in January. He will shadow during the day shift. Myself and Doug Loudon, other officers working that shift between now and his start at the academy. And like I said, most of it will be onboarding and preparation for the academy and those initial trainings. As Amby mentioned, I did file the paperwork to CALEA for our on-site assessment. This will finalize the self-assessment process, which we've been in for about 3 years now. I've reported extensively at this, regarding this rather, over the last 2 or 3 years. And it's been a very lengthy process. I think we've made leaps and bounds strides. Had a lot of very good support from our policy review committee. We do appreciate that. And I think we've seen a lot of good steps forward just with that. So as we went through this process, we also had a mock assessment this summer, got a lot of great feedback for that, and we feel we're ready for the final assessment. The final assessment is slated for April of 2021, and it is recommended that we get our request in 6 months in advance, of which we're right at that 6-month mark right now, getting this paperwork in. So we hope to hear back from CALEA once the invoice is processed through CALEA's main office in Virginia. We hope to hear back from them to solidify those dates, and we'll continue to prepare for the on-site assessment as we get closer to that date. A lot more on that. It is a process in and of itself. They'll actually send assessors here. They have a variety of public meetings, interviews, just different things that accompany that process. So as we get closer to that date and solidify that date with CALEA, we'll have much more to report on that. Sergeant Courtney began his K-9 training and is about halfway through. It is a 6-week training, and this week marks week 3. He reports that all is going well with the training, and again, we look forward to having them back on our streets. We've received the first materials for the watch guard, in-car, and body camera upgrades. This is a major project that we began at the beginning of the fiscal year, and again, we anticipate, just because of the depth of the project, it's going to last throughout the rest of the fall and into the winter. We do have the materials. More materials came today, and we've been in communication with the vendor to begin training each of the officers on the new equipment, because we're going to a wireless capacity now as opposed to manual downloads. So there's going to be a little bit of a curve in the training. So we'll begin that training process here soon, along with installation of the hardware. And then finally, work also continues on outfitting our newest cruisers. We have hit somewhat of a roadblock with that. One of our cruisers has been with the vendor for a couple of months now, specifically the K-9 unit, and the roadblock has primarily been because of the vendor's ability to acquire specifically the K-9 insert and some of the other necessary equipment in a timely manner. They've hit some roadblocks with that, so it's kind of slowed down our process. They do have all 3 of the cruisers now. We just took the other 2 up to their shop yesterday, and so we're hoping at this point that more of the equipment is in. We took a radio up also. They've begun the measurements, so we're hoping to see that come to fruition here pretty soon. We are working with Enterprise to help facilitate this process as well. So, Mayor, that's all I have.
I can see Katie back there frantically texting Brian. Brian, city cruiser hits roadblock. Can we use that as headline?
The project roadblock. Cars are fine.
Any questions or comments for Chief Gregory? I think we all echo. I think we're all thrilled to have James on board. I think we're really looking forward to have him as part of our force, and I think he clearly, fits the culture and the speed of our community very well.
So we're very happy to have him. Look forward to everything that's going on.
Yep. All right. Thanks, Matt. Tell the guys to be safe.
I will. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. I don't think I've skipped anybody else now. All right, so Tom has agreed he wants to talk to us in strategic. So, under correspondence and information in your packet, as we all know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. There's a proclamation for that in your packet. We have a newsletter from the West Virginia Ethics Commission, press release from First Energy, Mon Power, and Potomac Edison customers, lower electric rates in 2021. That's good news.
Yeah.
We've got a FOIA request, NSAFE environmental site assessment. We have a thank you from Chad Corley. For those of you that may not know, our manager for our Lowe's store here in Buckhannon for several years is now going to be going to Morgantown. And CJ facilitated a nice lunch today at the Opera House. Chad was gracious to bring down our new manager. His name is Cody McGee, I believe, and he will be our manager here at the Buckhannon Lowe's. He's coming to us from the Wheeling Market, and he and his family, they'll be moving to Buckhannon, and they're really thrilled to be part of Buckhannon. So although we'll miss Chad, and Chad was a force of nature with our Lowe's store, he took it to setting some records in sales. He did a great job with our Lowe's, and we wish him the best in Morgantown. But I think based on our luncheon today, I think we're in good hands with Cody, and we'll continue to facilitate that relationship with the city. Colonial Theater Rehabilitation Phase 3 Fiscal Year 2020 final report is in your packet. A proclamation for Christian Heritage Week as proclaimed by West Virginia Governor Jim Justice, November 22nd through 28th. And then finally the agreement, sales and purchase of commercial real estate between Mike Ross and the City of Buckhannon for the Mudlick property is in your packet, all for review. Down to the consent agenda. We've got 3 items as usual. We've got the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of 10/1/2020, approval of the building and wiring permits, and approval of the payment of the bills. Can I have a motion that we approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Rylands. We have a second by Allball. Hearing the need for no discussion, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, I think I heard everybody. Motion has passed unanimously. Okay, we're down to strategic issues for discussion and or vote. We've already dispensed of F1 and F2. We have F3 in your packet. You'll find the approval to accept the Fire Civil Service Commission list of eligibles. Testing has taken place, and I believe I heard Amby say that it was a success. So those, I'm trying to find those in
I
here.
was trying to find it.
All right.
Oh, there they are. Right before the, yeah. Here.
Okay. All right. So we've got the list here. We from accepted above. We've got Devin Landis, Andrew Douglas Loudon, Darren Martin, Maria Potter, and Charles Hunter Wilfong to accept. I know most of those, and they're good folks. So I would entertain a motion that we approve the list of eligibles as certified by the Fire Civil Service Commission.
So moved.
We have a motion by Jack Rigger. We have a second by Mary. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, like sign. Motion is carried. Okay. F4, discussion, possible approval of trick or treat Saturday, October 31st, 2020 from 6 to 7:30 p.m. I'll be honest, I was more inclined to say that we don't do this, but the county commission has set trick or treat for the county during the same time. From a logistical standpoint, the city of Buckhannon is located within Upshur County. I think it creates a lot of confusion and frustration on the part of folks if the county can do it and the city cannot, even though we're all part of the same community. I know that our numbers are not great, but I would like to remind everybody that's watching or listening out there that this activity is and has always been purely voluntary. It's not something that's required. You're not required to go trick or treat, and furthermore, you're not required to give out candy. If this is approved this evening, my recommendation, I think our council's recommendation would be that we adhere to CDC guidelines relative to trick or treat, and that we stress to folks that, to try to keep from congregating in larger groups and to keep the traffic flow moving from house to house, and also to please just know that you don't have to participate. If you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to participate. But it is going to be my recommendation that we accept Saturday, October 31st from 6 to 7:30 as trick or treat in the city of Buckhannon. Again, I think following the lead of the Upshur County Commission, I think we have to keep the continuity of our community intact and to reduce any confusion that might take place. So, yes.
I'd like to ask you a question. This is David. Did the county commission confer with you before they made that decision?
Well, not really. We talked about it. We did talk about it, and I had communicated with them prior to the October 1st meeting that I thought we should delay the decision until tonight. Now, we don't meet every week. They do. So they had a meeting last week, whereas we did not, and they went ahead and passed it last week and set the time and date. I talked to a county commissioner on Friday who called me after their decision, and we talked a little bit, but I don't want to be at odds with the county commission over something like this, and I don't want to create confusion in our community. That's a big reason for my recommendation to go ahead and follow their lead with this. Again, logistically, the city is in the county.
Well, I know where you're coming from, Bobby, but I think it's very sad that we couldn't have done this together rather than they do it before we have an opportunity to discuss it among ourselves. I mean, I just thought that's one more example of the county commission sometimes and the city council not working together when they should. And I have an issue with that, and you know what I think about that sometimes. But it's disappointing, quite frankly.
Well, I hear you. I mean, I thought we were going to make the decision more in line together, but I don't. I've talked to him since then, and I think it's just best if we just do this together and just leave it up to everybody's individual choice to determine whether they want to participate or not. Because again, it's all, pandemic or no pandemic, it's always been voluntary.
That's right.
I move we approve trick or treat for Saturday, October 31st, 2020 from 6 to 7:30 p.m.
We have a motion by Councilman Rylands. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
We have a second by Pam. I heard her first. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, I would just suggest that we do put those CDC guidelines on our website. Just to remind people that while we are voting on this in the affirmative, that we do recommend that people do take caution in doing so. In order for me to vote yes on this, I would be more comfortable if we were to include those CDC recommendations on our website.
Callie, I don't think that's an unreasonable request, and maybe we could take it a step further and put those condense them perhaps into a Facebook post over the next few weeks leading up to it from the city's page.
That sounds good. I have them up on my browser now, so I'll get those over to our website, probably on the COVID page, but maybe also on the main page under news and announcements as well. And I like the idea to do a series on social media.
Mary?
I also
Thank you for
saw
that.
on Facebook that someone at the high school, they're gonna have a drive-through for trick or treat. That's
Yes.
a nice, safe way to do it. And I know, we used to do it at the police department, chief, are we not doing that, or?
The police department is not, the Family Resource Network is doing a drive-by or drive-in trunk or treat at the high school.
Oh, that's who's doing that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that where we can give candy, like, oh, we used to give some?
Yeah, they're gonna still have folks.
Okay. So
that
maybe
can dress
Kelly
up.
could promote that also? For
Sure.
I mean, that's something new.
And I may need to get with you, Mayor or Mary, because Mary, I couldn't hear you as well as I'm hearing everything else. But I think you just
Mary-
information about the drive-through trunk or treat.
Yes, Mary was suggesting that the Family Resource Network is hosting a trunk or treat as another option at the high school where folks can drive through. We may want to also share that information from the Family Resource Network on social media as well, just to let folks know that they do have, an option.
And-
Okay,
and
sounds great.
Hopefully the press will add that too.
Yeah.
As an alternative.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the table about trick or treat. Is there any further discussion? Hearing the need for none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Dave Thomas, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Did you vote yes?
Nope.
Okay, I just wanted to, all right,
I'm gonna vote no.
all those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, let the minutes reflect that that 5 vote for and 1 votes against. Dave Thomas is the only vote against. Okay. All right. Down to F5. We have approval of ordinance 447, revised downtown parking, first reading. I will defer to our city attorney, Mr. O'Neill, to walk us through the ordinance presented. It's in the very back of your packet, folks.
Members of council, how about I read can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. How about I read the ordinance by caption and then we go into discussion? Would that be all right?
Sure.
Okay. The council has before it ordinance number 447 of the city of Buckhannon, amended, modifying, and reenacting ordinance number 409, also known as ordinance number 2016-008, ordinance number 422, and ordinance number 435 of the city of Buckhannon with respect to the enforcement thereof. This is the first of 2 readings. Members of council, this was the subject of discussion 2 weeks ago at a prior meeting, and the draft that you have before you reflects the discussions and recommended edits that were discussed at those meetings. In particular, under Article 1, we have the escalating fines for subsequent violations, $25 for a first violation, $50 for a second, $100 for third and subsequent violations, provided that there is a mandatory warning for a shall issue warning for the first violation before you get into the first offenses. Subsequent to that, the parking officer would have discretion to give additional warnings, but they are not mandated. As we discussed, and this was in the prior draft, the clock begins to tick on the subsequent violation at the time that the warning or citation is made. So in other words, if a person is parked illegally and then receives a warning and the car is still there more than 2 hours later, they proceed straight to the first offense. They do not pass go or collect $200 or reset their time. The He also discussed the movement of the vehicle within to adjacent spots or across the street. This ordinance provides that moving the vehicle within the same segment of the street, meaning the same block of the street, so an adjoining parking spot or across the street, does not reset your 2-hour time. We know that that is a common practice, that somebody will park and then wait for an opportunity to roll the car forward into the next spot to get a new 2 hours. I confess that I've done that myself, but no more. That is not going to be a permitted practice under this ordinance if it is adopted by the council. I spoke with the municipal judge about this draft. She offered some suggested edits which have been incorporated into this draft. She agrees that it is enforceable as it is drafted and with the intent that is contained within this draft, and that an individual who receives a warning is not going to be required any longer to get a certified mail and to have that put into the file. This is going to be a much more streamlined process to enforce this in the case of chronic violators, which is the objective of the draft. Other than that, this draft is otherwise the same as the copy that was discussed 2 weeks ago. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
So Tom, if we remove the 24-month reset, is that correct?
That is correct.
So the license plate that I have on my car has been on my 5 or 6 previous cars. So if I got a warning in 1999 and I got a $25 fine and I got the next ticket over the next 20 years, I'd be up to 100 for each one, each subsequent one. Even though I may have had 4 people in the family driving the vehicle, it's the plate that we're ticketing. And a little history. So probably about 8 years ago, we started talking about parking in downtowns and how vibrancy, and we benchmarked other communities, Lewisburg and others. And then we hired Bryson Van Osred for approximately $5,000, and we had a parking plan. And we vetted this parking plan with the Chamber of Commerce and create Buckhannon, and eventually brought to Consolidated Public Works. Now, the path of ascension that the city of Buckhannon has been on is not for things that the city has done, it's for things that the city has not done. So a punitive parking plan hasn't been in the works. Now, we had one person come to Consolidated Public Works and complain about one other chronic violator, and here we are recycling the whole process and exercising our power and authority to become a punitive parking system in our downtown. Now, there's a reason that Buckhannon doesn't look like a lot of other downtowns, and our storefronts are full. And there's people, somebody moves out, somebody's waiting to move back in. Is it a coincidence that we have this because we don't have a punitive parking plan? I mean, if you're going to nurture something, you have to remove the threats. The threats to business people, to businesses and customers, is the fear of getting a ticket. And in this case, that now that the 24-month reset is taken out, is going to be perpetual. And I think it's an overreach. I think it's exercising power and authority for the sake of doing it because you have power and authority. It's not aligned with the best interests of businesses and residents alike. And the money that you're going to raise from this, all the money you're spending in publicity to attract people to our town and businesses to be here, you're going to undo all that with this policy the way it's currently written. I'd strongly advocate to get the 24-month reset back in and to have 2 warnings. The one person that complained about the one person that was violating is going to do this anyhow, you know, and they're going to use up any of this cushion that we have. So part of the reason that it wasn't as effective as it was that we didn't enforce it. There was no enforcement, or very minimal enforcement. So there's my 2 cents.
Well, let me respond. Let me respond to a couple of the points you've made. First, I've only drafted this as I was directed to draft it coming out of the last meeting. So I mean, these aren't my decisions on where this draft is going. I'm just the scribe here. So I'd ask that you not direct use to me on what you are trying, on what I am allegedly.
This wasn't directed at you. It was directed at the people that were guiding your.
Okay, well, that wasn't clear. That wasn't clear to me. With respect to the 24-month reset and 2 warnings, that's a policy decision for the council to make, and I'm happy to draft this if the council wants it.
Tom, CJ, thank you for your articulation of how you've thought about this. I think it was very clear to me. It's somewhat distressing that one person is a habitual violator, and we're sort of redoing something because of that one individual. We should have talked to that person in my mind, and I'd be glad to go talk to them, because you said right now, CJ, if I do some more. But
we did attempt that, Dave.
A reset. I want to be able to, from the city standpoint, be a municipality that wants people to visit us. I think that's very important. And if we have a habitual violator, I think we need to deal with that on an individual basis. Tom, my position is...
Mr. Thompson, Dave, can I suggest that one of the reasons we have the habitual violator is that the ordinance as it currently exists provides for such a diluted enforcement policy where somebody has to be served with a certified letter and then given 2 weeks to, there are some things procedurally in this in the current ordinance as it exists right now that really hamper
exactly. I think that's what we should clear up, and not bring something that is an overreach. I agree with what CJ's saying, and I agree with what you're saying too, Tom. And I guess I would ask at some point in time maybe we should table this and come back with another ordinance that would make sense for everybody. But I hate to have 1 or 2 people that are habitual offenders, and you try to limit them with an ordinance that's going to affect the overall acceptance of our municipality to people that are coming into town, and also people that live here. So
I think we did need to adjust it to give us some teeth with these chronic violators. But I don't want to snag up everyone else and attempt to modify the behavior of 1 or 2 individuals and who aren't going to abide by the rules no matter what they are.
I agree with you, CJ. My recommendation would be to table it and let's...
Well, I don't think we need to table it. I think we can discuss this and get something to come out of this.
I want to be clear.
Can I share some thoughts that I've had?
Sure.
That Jack?
Yeah.
If you guys don't mind, I'd like to share some thoughts.
Go ahead.
I've given this some thought, and one of the things that I think we need to look at yes, we want visitors to come to Buckhannon and have a great experience, but we also have to be considerate of, community members that are here, some of them every day. I would like to consider, or for the council to consider, why can we not have forgiveness every year? December 31st, last day, January 1st, everybody has a clean slate. Now, talking with CJ, one of the, who again had the genesis, I believe, of this concept, we don't have the technology to enforce it and to do it properly. I firmly believe that someone trying to do paper pencil, going back and trying to put records in a spreadsheet, transitioning between the meter maid or whatever you would call this person to a public volunteer, as far as information, that's going to get lost. And I think it's a great concept, but if we're going to do it, I think we need to invest money in the technology so that we can be fair, consistent, and precise in the information we have. Now, from what I understand, that might be a big investment, but the thing is, this is a great concept, but we have to provide our people the tools to do it correctly. And, those are my thoughts. It may hurt in the beginning to expend that kind of funding to get the scanners, portable technology that you would need, but you would have an immediate record. There's no guesswork. There's no lost in translation as you're going from notes to a spreadsheet. And those are my thoughts.
I agree with you.
I think the concept is great. And I think if we're going to do it, guys, and spend the money, let's do it correctly so that we're equitable and fair, professional, and precise in everything we do.
I think that's a great idea.
You want to?
I got a suggestion. You guys might laugh at this, but they have the equipment. If you have an habitual offender doing it all the time, put a tire lock on his car so he can't move the vehicle. That technology's been here for 40 years.
I don't think we need to go that extent.
I said that somebody so you can laugh a little bit, but
Council Lady Alva would like to weigh in.
I was recently in Colonial Williamsburg, and they have pillory blocks there, so maybe that would work.
Okay. Mr. Rieger, I like what you said. Thank you. That's a great recommendation. And I'm sure that some kind of reader would work. Download it, keep the data there. And if they get 2 warnings, and I think it would be easier for that person to, who does that anyhow? The lady in the front office there?
Yes.
I think there'd have to be some other people, or
Well,
I'm not saying to hire another person, but we've been beating this to death. But I think 2 warnings is reasonable. But if they're a continuous moving here to there, moving there, the person that sees that vehicle, they're going to know that, okay? And don't give them a warning, just give them a ticket.
well, in this way, this current revision, you can give them a warning in 2 hours and another warning. So an example being, there was a Land Rover with Colorado plates pulled up in front of the CVB about 10 in the morning and sat there until 4. So theoretically, the first time they've ever been in Buckhannon, they could have ended up with a couple of $100 worth of tickets.
Yeah.
If we'd have got the first warning, and then there was no second, and then there was a ticket, and then the next hour there was another. They were parked there for 8 hours. And I don't think, we put everything at risk to come across with this punitive system that has the potential to damage the perception of our community. And I don't take it lightly that we are an exception to small towns across West Virginia, that this is a contributing factor that we established, whatever, 5 or 6 years ago, to remove that punitive aspect from downtown parking.
And CJ, to add to that, when you're saying that somebody came to the consolidated board and was complaining about, 1 or 2 people that were habitual violators, you don't want to change your whole system because of 1 or 2 people.
Well, that's what we've done.
Well, we haven't done it yet. I want to say a couple things. I've heard all the discussion. There is not a single person, I wholeheartedly believe, there's not a single person on this council that, or in this organization that wants to just exercise authority and control. I really don't believe that. I really believe that the reasoning behind we got to this point was we're trying to, one, simplify a system that is really kind of convoluted to decipher and to enforce. And the other piece of it is that there are more than just one chronic violator. I mean, there is a violator or two in every block. Just pick the day. And the goal of any parking system, and I think everybody here would agree with this, the goal of any parking system is to keep the spaces rotating. That's our goal. In the restaurant business, you don't want people hanging out all day,
Table turn.
Right. You want the tables to keep turning over. And we want the same thing on our downtown parking. We don't, if you look at the map, if you truly look at the map of Main Street, we don't have that many parking spaces. We really don't. Not on Main Street itself. We have 489 free parking spaces across the entire downtown area, but on Main Street itself, you really don't have that many by the time you take into account the flower, the tree boxes, the turning lanes, alleys that come in,
space.
And now we've got a few more handicap spaces downtown. We did eliminate a loading zone, which we've talked that was brought up in Consolidated Public Works Board too, to perhaps bring one of those back for FedEx and UPS deliveries as well as food deliveries, as we do have a lot of restaurants in the downtown. Look, I'm not trying to force this down anybody's throat. It's just here for consideration. This is not set in stone. I mean, if we want to go back to the drawing board and come up with something else, that's fine. This came out of Consolidated Public Works Board to try to simplify an issue, because if we have people that are camped out all day, I've seen some comments on social media that what this is to hurt our business community downtown. In fact, I think what we all want to do, we all want our downtown business community to thrive. We want that. I want that. CJ wants that. Mary wants that. Dave Thomas wants that. We all want our downtown business community to thrive. I travel to a bunch of different towns all the time, and Buckhannon is certainly an anomaly. We do not look like a lot of other communities. And I agree with you. I think a big part of it is that we have a very welcoming and friendly parking system in our downtown, meaning that it is free. Most towns aren't even, you can go downtown and you don't even get the first warning because you don't even have an opportunity, because it's either a meter or it's paid by a kiosk somewhere, and there is no free parking. So I'm not, if we want to, go back to the drawing board and try to come up with something that's a little fairer, but I do believe that anything we do, I've said this from the beginning, anything that we do, we have to simplify the system. And we do have to be consistent in our enforcement. I agree wholeheartedly with the comments made that we have to be consistent in our enforcement. We can't miss hours and we can't miss days. It has to be the same because it's not worth the paper it's written on if we can't enforce it. So I will defer to I will yield to the council as to if someone wants to motion that we accept this draft or this first reading, we can hear it. If not, we can go back to the drawing board and try something else.
That would be my recommendation.
Well, why don't we establish some of the parameters that how we'd like to guide this? I mean, I think we can pound this through here if we just focus a little bit. I mean, I like Jack's recommendation of a reset. I think a reset, whether it's 12 months or 24 months, is important because we're tracking license plates and they transfer from vehicle to vehicle. And I've always liked the idea of 2 warnings because if the third time you do something, I got no sympathy. And there's no excuse. You can't, how do you argue that you ignored 2 warnings to get the citation? And if some of the changes that we have in here of being able to, if you move the car around, we can accrue that time, that's new, and I think that works. And I think, that's a tool against these people that were playing the system.
Right.
Yeah, but see, I agree with everything you're saying. I don't think the council meeting tonight is we draw a conclusion and have an ordinance and we vote on this evening. I mean, I think we have to, I agree with what Jack had to say. I think that's good. We have to see what the investment is and so forth. And
Well,
I think resetting is appropriate, depending on whether it should be 12 or 24 months. But I think this was a good discussion. I had trouble hearing about it 2 weeks ago. My phone was all screwed up, and I got a new phone. But I think, as Robbie said, we all want to have a thriving downtown, and we don't want to see be seen as a putative municipality, but when there are habitual offenders, we need to deal with it in a way that makes sense.
Tom, were you? Yeah, or somebody?
Randy Sanders here. I think in the essence of time, we've heard about everything that's being repeated now for the second or third time. And in fairness to Tom, he did give us 2 or 3 opportunities this week to comment on his draft, and not all of us took advantage of that. May I recommend that we table this, make sure everyone gets their thoughts into Tom so he can craft an ordinance as simple as possible with all of the important issues that have been voiced, and bring it back to the next council.
I make that motion.
Well, you don't motion to table something, so I think we should, if we're going to table it, it should. I mean, that's fine. If that's the will of the council, I mean, I'm okay with that. Just know.
If we don't, I think we'll be here another hour or 2, just trying to massage everything to exact. Tom's going to have to do another draft anyway. I think if people pay attention to their emails and respond to Tom, he can get us a draft that'll be favorable.
Okay. Is that acceptable to the council? Yeah. So let's every council member. The homework is to peruse this, make highlights, make notes, and send City Attorney Tom O'Neill an email with questions, comments, additions, subtractions relative to this, so that we can bring this back to the November meeting and hopefully move it forward.
That'll work.
Okay.
But you could have a motion to table something.
Well, I mean, I guess you can, but you don't. It's not. I don't think it's.
It's not absolutely necessary what you say.
No. Okay. F6. Discussion paper alleys and city limits. Let me just start, and I'll defer to Tom O'Neill. We've had some. We have communicated in a couple of different boards and a couple of different letters and just kind of word of mouth around the community among department heads and with our zoning and code enforcement officer about paper alleys. Just so everyone's on the same page, paper alleys they exist throughout the city of Buckhannon. they are, literally what they mean is that the alleys are listed on paper. They're on a map. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they are through streets. Okay? If you look at the property line map for the city of Buckhannon, you will see on different streets, they're all over the place, little voids between property lines. Those would be considered paper alleys. Paper alleys, although again they are not through streets, the city still has to have a right of way, because it's city-owned property. Okay, a paper alley is not necessarily property that a homeowner would own that's next to his or her house in between he or she and their neighbor.
That was for, in the old days, fire trucks and all that kind of
Yes,
stuff?
they were developed many years ago, and they've grassed over. They don't, but at the end of the day, they're on our paper. They're just not through streets.
Right.
We want to make sure that we remind folks to observe the city right of way and not park cars, not build buildings, and not build fences on the paper alleys.
And park trailers.
Correct. That's not an extra space to park vehicles and build buildings. It's still space that the city maintains in the event of an emergency or something of that sort.
Do we have a map with all these laid out?
Yes, we do.
They're on the tax maps, you can see them.
Yeah.
They're
Is
there
the-
for future development too.
Building enforcement officer made aware and.
Well, we've had some folks that have gotten letters and had some vehicles and some things removed from paper alleys, and so the discussion was brought. I'm going to have Tom take it a little further here, but we want to make sure that folks understand that paper alleys exist and what they are, and that it's important not to block them up with.
Bobby, is this on the City of Buckhannon website about definition of a paper alley?
Is the definition of it on as a paper alley?
Since I've been on council, we had talked about this at least 3 other times. Pam, do you remember that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think we talk about this periodically, especially because you have new people coming in, and they may build a fence without thinking about it, or put a little shelter on there. But maybe we ought to have this on the website so that people understand that the paper alley gives the city a right of way, and you can't put a fence on there or a storage building or so forth. But I know it's been talked about at least 3 times since I've been on council. This is, I guess, the 4th time. And I agree with what you're saying. We just need to figure out how to keep it out there in front of people.
Can I
Yes, Tom, go ahead.
Sure, thanks. And Mr. Mayor, I think you said it very well, and I would only add one little thing, and the reason that it's really kind of brought before the council now for this discussion, and that is our zoning and housing and code enforcement officer, Vincent Smith, as you mentioned, is engaged in some enforcement of the city's rights with respect to these paper alleys. They are property rights that belong to the city, and they are public property. Whether it is whether the paper alley is owned outright by the city, which is in many cases, or if it's just a right of way that hasn't yet been turned into an actual through street, it's city property. And lately there has been stepped up enforcement of clearing these things. That has resulted naturally in a little bit of consternation among the people who have been parking their property within the city's right-of-way. And I imagine that maybe many of you members of council have received may have received some feedback from people who may feel aggrieved by the city's stepped-up enforcement of its rights, because there have been some real chronic violators and in many different areas of the city. And we just want to just have the discussion, not only to get the word out among the public, but also just to advise you as members of council that this enforcement is happening, and that you may, if you haven't yet, you may in the future be contacted by residents or property owners who are the subject of the enforcement actions in removing vehicles or outbuildings or fences or whatever may be because it is not in the city's interest to dispose of these paper alleys. The city really should retain its rights that exist. There are legal mechanisms for the city to surrender those paper alleys. I don't recommend that the city do that because these paper alleys can be used for a number of things. There may be a point in the future where putting a through street through these paper alleys makes sense. And you can't do that, or you can't do it without making a very costly undertaking if the paper alley is surrendered. Also, there's the question of using those for access in cases of emergencies for the fire service and whatever. So just wanted to kind of make the members of council aware that this enforcement is going on and just kind of receive feedback just to gauge your temperature and make sure that you want enforcement of the city's rights on these things to take place, because ultimately, if there's blowback regarding enforcement, then as the elected members of council, you're liable to be the recipients of that.
Right.
Yeah, we'll come up again in 3 or 4 years, I guarantee you. It's just that's the way it is.
Ever since
Well,
we got banned.
there's really no action to take with this line item. This is merely just for an FYI and discussion, just kind of based on some interactions we've had thus far. So thank you, Tom, for your explanation and just to make council aware. We are down to comments and announcements. First up is Mary.
Thank you, Tom, for explanation on that paper alley. And I remember that from back working in a city recorder, but I've been through a few of them, and I wondered if I was in a private drive that used to be one. But I'm glad you're doing that, and I will respond to you, okay, for the other one, for the downtown parking. We all will. And that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam?
Only thing I have is I'm working on Christmas decorations, and I'm looking for volunteers to come out Monday at 10 o'clock to the Street Department building to help with the wreaths and help us make some decisions on decorating. Appreciate it. Some people come out, including our council members.
All right. Thanks, Pam. CJ?
Thank you.
This upcoming Saturday, the 24th, I believe, maybe that's next Saturday. Anyhow, on the 24th, Create Buckhannon is partnering with the Band of Brothers for a barbecue chicken dinner. It will be held across on Route 20, across from the rental center, and I believe it's 11:30 to 12:30. Is that right, Amanda? And we did have a luncheon today with Chad Corley and Cody McGee, the new Lowe's manager, and I thought it was great. There was representatives from the county, the city, the Chamber of Commerce, the Development Authority, Create Buckhannon, and others, and I think it made him feel like this is a special place, and that he'll follow in the footsteps of staying connected and supporting a lot of projects that we have going on. So that's it.
All right. Thanks, CJ. J. David Thomas.
Just a couple things. When the CJ said Band of Brothers, they're still selling their calendars, and they're phenomenal. Al Tucker does a wonderful job with that, and the money they raise is some of it's going to go to have some things in nursing homes for people that they're were shut in for such a long time. They look forward to that. Also, I have a Family Resource Network was going to have a raffle that was going to be October the 9th, but it has been extended. I'm not sure exactly when they're pulling the raffle ticket out, but there are 3 wonderful things that have been made, and I got a bunch of tickets. They're $5 per ticket, or 5 for $20. They're made out of white ash and sassafras, and they're really quite wonderful. And I'm going to hit you all up for a little bit at some point in time. I've had some more calls about the Sudden Link, and people are very frustrated. And I think next council meeting, I think it might be good for us to chat about that a little bit, because we have our hands tied in some degrees, and it's very frustrating for people, I think. And then the next thing I have to say is I'm asking everybody who can, I don't know if the papers will put this in or not, but there's so much stress out there in our country today, and I would wish the Democrats and the Republicans could come together and work out another plan for people that are suffering. I've almost had a suggestion: take the 2 top Democrats and the 2 top Republicans, put it in the room, and dole them out. They can come up with agreement. It's 1.8 trillion versus 2.2. Let's get this country moving in the right direction. Call your senators and your House of Representatives and say, let's get this done. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. All right, Jack Rigger, you're up.
Well, I don't have anything to say other than it's nice to have a new police officer on board, and it's nice that we can have discussions with disagreements and still maintain a decorum with respect and professionalism. It's thrilling to be able to do that. So,
amen.
I agree.
That's all I ask.
Thanks, Jack. Mr. Sanders.
Okay, I'll make it brief. I'm glad we had the discussion on ordinance 447. I do agree that once it is manipulated to the point that everybody's happy with it, we feel it's the best we can present to the city, it's got to be enforced. It has to be enforced, and the technology has to be there for us to be able to enforce it and track it. So that'll be the second phase of that ordinance. Halloween, I voted yes with trepidation. I don't want to get too comfortable, and I get in the position that, you know, okay, we got to make it fun for everybody. We got to get this and that. So for those folks that are going to do Halloween, please be careful. Please take precautions. Use hand sanitizers, so on and so forth. And that is it.
Thank you, sir. I agree with what everyone has said relative to our discussions this evening. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're not here to dictate anything to the community. We're not here to already have our minds made up and to try to drive concepts into enforcement in our community. We're here because we all share a genuine love for our town, and that we want our town to be the best it can be and to thrive. And it's how we get there it takes molding, and it takes discussion, and it takes folks to everybody sometimes has to give a little, and hopefully we can always come up on top with the right solution. So I'll look forward to seeing what we all come up with relative to downtown parking. I think Buckhannon is more interested in parking than probably a lot of other towns are. Let's keep this in perspective too. We are fortunate to have a parking problem. This town is busy every day. We are fortunate to have people that want to come to our downtown to conduct business. So, we could be scrambling, trying to fill spaces and worried about the tumbleweeds going down the street. But we have people that genuinely want to come and do business and just experience our downtown. I talked to 3 people just yesterday, in walking from the bank back to my office, and from my office over to CJ's to get lunch, and then from my office to the other bank. I talked to 3 different people who literally just came to Buckhannon because it is so attractive, and they were so thrilled to be here. So we do have something special, and we just have to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support our businesses, and everything we can to support our residents, and everything we can to support our organization here. So.
Well, I mean, we don't have tumbleweeds, so.
How do you know?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Yes, we'll need, if we could request an executive session.
Yep, I was getting to that. I want to remind the council that we do have a very short executive session. We will not have any decisions made this evening relative to personnel and property matters per West Virginia code. That is all that we have. I will entertain a motion that at 8:28 we adjourn into executive session.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you very much. We appreciate everybody tuning in tonight.
Oh.